How's that? God was having a conversation with one of his angels. And he said to the angel, he said, man, I'm pretty proud of myself. He said, do you realize that I just created a 24-hour alternating period of light and darkness? Isn't that cool? The angel says, yeah, well, what now? He says, I think I'll call it a day. Anyhow, it's not too often that we speak of God in a Buddhist temple, in a Buddhist context. But I want to talk a little bit about the idea of God wrapped in different ways here this morning. In 1984, a woman artist by the name of Edwina Sanders, sculptor, sculpted the Christa, the female Christ, the 280-pound bronze structure of a naked woman, except for the crown of thorns on her head, on an acrylic cross, nailed to an acrylic cross. And interestingly enough, she didn't sculpt it for religious purposes. She sculpted it as a political statement because of the plight of women around the world. Women bear the cross of all the work that's got to be done, of all the unheralded work. And women bear the mistreatment by men, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She was a feminist. And she thought, this would be a pretty cool statement. I bet it'll get a reaction. Oh boy, did it ever get a reaction, because they hung it in the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine in Manhattan. Easter week. Right up there. There's a naked female Christ. The thing was supposed to hang and stay hanging for months on end. After 11 days, there was such, it was pictured on big story on the front of the New York Times. There was on the front of Time magazine, a big story in there, and people were they couldn't believe it. I mean, across America and across the world. How dare you say that Jesus, the Christ, is a woman? You can't depict him like her. And after 11 days, they took it down, put it in storage. She eventually took it back and kept it at her place. And it didn't come back until 2014, and now hangs there. Still not peacefully, but it hangs there. What is the nature of God? And I would bet just by each of us hearing the word God, we have different images that jump around inside of our heads, depending on our upbringing and our education, our life experience. You know, who or what is God? Is God even? Is there any isness to God? Or is there no God? You know, I catch a lot of flack, and I'm sure some of you have too, and Buddhism catches a lot of flack as an atheistic religion. How dare you call yourselves a religion? You don't have a God in your religion. You can't be a religion, because religion automatically means structured around God or including God. Buddhism is non-theistic. It's not atheistic. Atheism says there absolutely is no God, period. Non-theistic means I don't know if there is or not. I don't care if there is or not. Our philosophy of salvation, called soteriology, across all religions, that just means the doctrine of salvation, has nothing to do whether or not there's a God or not, or multiple gods. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the idea that there is a disease. We call it suffering or dukkha. There is a cause. What's the cause? Our self, our ego, our need to pull what we like into us and hold on to it, or to push what we don't like away, or to just ignore everyone else and just focus on me, mine, and not we or ours. There is a prognosis. The prognosis is good, providing you follow the treatment. What is the treatment? The Eightfold Path. If you follow this, you're probably going to be okay. It's not an easy path to follow, but you're probably going to be okay in the end. Whether or not God exists or not, you're probably going to be okay, and you're going to live a better life, a happier life, a quieter life. By doing that, you cultivate the four Brahma Viharas. You start to live in loving kindness. You start to live in compassion. You start to live with sympathetic joy. Somebody wins $1 million and you say, damn, I wish that were mine. No, you don't do that. You're happy for them. Isn't that cool? They won $1 million. How great is that? You live in equanimity. You don't let the little stuff screw you over. You don't live in all the drama. You kind of stay above the drama and just kind of look out there and, oh yeah, I understand how it works now, based on the Eightfold Path of my practice, how I live my life. So people get most upset oftentimes when they find out I'm Buddhist. And in fact, this woman that I've talked about before, I hate to bring her up, but she was just in about 10 or 12 days ago again. And this wonderful Ukrainian woman, she's 82. You'd never believe she's 82. She looks maybe 60 or 62. Takes care of herself, probably got good genes. She's been a client for 30 years. And she is Ukrainian Catholic and faithful, goes to church all the time, and believes in what her church teaches her, and believes that there is one path and one path only, and it is through Jesus Christ, her Lord. And once again, when she was in, she says, oh, Dr. Gary, I pray for you. I pray for you every day. And I said, I'll just call her M. Em, I love it. Thank you. I'm glad you pray for me. She says, but you're going to hell. She says, I feel so bad for you. I said, you know what? I'm going to have a lot of friends there, so it'll be okay. And then, of course, that just riles her up even more. So we kind of get a dig at each other. It's crazy. The Grapefruit League baseball just started this past week. And I don't know if you heard, the Tigers lost yesterday to the Yankees, 22-10. 22-10. That's a football score. Each team, the picture, there was like 10 guys hit on one team and like 12 guys hit on the other team by the pitchers. I mean, it was obscene. So you know what's coming once the Grapefruit League starts and the pro games start, the regular games. The guy sitting right behind the catcher there, and he holds up the sign, John 3:16. John 3:16. Where's the camera at? John 3:16. For God so loved the world that whoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Believe in Jesus, or else you're damned. It's coming. It used to bother me a lot more, but it doesn't bother me as much anymore. I've gotten a little bit more, developed a little bit more equanimity. But I love teasing this woman. So, a couple of Thursdays ago, Yambul and Yamgay and I were the only ones here on Thursday night, and so we talked about this thing about God a little bit, and how it kind of got into Buddhism too, and the way Buddhism developed. After World War I and after World War II, and the horrific tragedies, the millions of people that were killed and in war and in concentration camps, and theologians started to question, how could there be a God? All of these labels that we put on God. God is all loving. God is all knowing. God is all powerful. Well, it's got to be a bunch of bullshit. I mean, how can a God be like that and allow this degree of tragedy to occur? hard to express. And so there came a time after World War II that people said we need a new idea of God, because whoever we think God is, that God isn't working in our world. There's got to be something else behind it. You know, and one of the books that was written in 1952, excuse me, but my copy has been through all kinds of hell and back, but is Your God is Too Small. It was written by an Anglican priest and theologian, J.B. Phillips, over in England. And yeah, he said, most people see God as a policeman, as an old man in the sky, as a punisher, as a judge, you know, you name it. That's their vision, their ideal of what God is or who God is. Of course, you'll see in this book, there is no feminine conception of God. There is no woman conception of God or anyone who has maternal type instincts. It's all male type instincts. God is male, definitely. And one of the some people would say probably the most notable Christian philosopher of the 20th century. And right now his name just went, shoop. I can see his face. And golly day, just went boom. It'll come to me. Anyhow, he said the word God is tainted. He said we can no longer use the word God per se. It's tainted because of war and tragedy and cruelty that the people have against one another. It's a tainted word. We can't use that. He says the real purpose of religion, Paul Tillich, there's his name right there. Paul Tillich, he was a German Lutheran minister and theologian and philosopher who eventually escaped the Nazis and came here to our country and died in 1965. But Paul Tillich says the purpose of religion should be to teach people how to experience the God beyond the God that we have a conception of. To experience the God that is beyond the God we have a conception of. And he called that, well, he didn't put a name on it. You know, like the early Israelites, you know, you don't say the name of God. God is YWHW. Later on, when people started saying, well, okay, I wasn't slain by lightning when I said that word. Yahweh. You know, Yahweh was the original Israelite name for God. Later on, they said it's Jehovah. That way, we just used the I forget what for the letters, but YWHW Yahweh or WH Yahweh. Anyhow, Tillich says anytime you say the word God, you have images that pop up in your head. So forget about that. God is the ground of being, the ground of isness, the ground of what's behind everything that happens. Buddhism ran into not the problem with all the death and killing and everything, but the way Buddhism developed is Theravada Buddhism, the original Buddhism, if you will, the early Buddhism, the Buddhism of the Nikayas, those early sermons of the historical Buddha. They didn't see Buddha as this super mundane, transformational figure that was transcendent. Buddha was a pretty cool guy who had a great teaching, and he died. And when he died, he entered nirvana, whatever that may be. He entered nirvana. And it is our job as practitioners, we can never become a Buddha. There were 7 Buddhas in the kalpas, the eons, way, way, way before, and there's going to be one more Buddha called the future Buddha, Maitreya. We can never be a Buddha, but we can be an Arhat. An Arhat is simply a Buddha who's not called a Buddha. It's someone who's enlightened. The trouble is, Arhats only work for themselves. even though they talked about compassion and loving kindness and all that. Salvation, soteriology, was for them alone. To be saved, you had to be a monk. That was the only way you're going to be saved. And the Buddha had died. Well, as further Buddhists came along, they said, wait a second, if we can't be a Buddha again, what do we do? And they developed the idea of Buddhahood. That Buddha nature that Shakyamuni Gautama, a historical person in northern India, now Nepal, that if he had it, all people must have it. The possibility, the potential is there for all of us to develop a Buddhahood. And so came Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism developed what some people would say gods. They're not gods. The gods are in a whole other realm. They developed other types of Buddhas to manifest this idea of there are different types of things we cultivate. You've got Amitabha Buddha. The two big ones are Amitabha Buddha and Medicine Buddha. There's a Buddha in each realm. Okay, so we've got these celestial Buddhas who, as we develop our practice, we open ourselves, we let that ego gradually dissolve over time. The powers that be are invested in us, and we start to manifest these ideals of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And we start to manifest them in our lives. But then it went a step further. The idea that we're still putting labels on these things. Labels get confusing. Labels fence us in. We develop ideas. Let's open ourselves really to everything that is. Let's get rid of the borders. Let's get rid of the boundaries. Let's live horizonlessly. And to do that, they developed the idea of the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya is the emptiness of everything. It's the ground of all being, represented by Vairocana. Vairocana Buddha is the cosmic Buddha, the ultimate Buddha. Reality as it is, isness, suchness, thusness. This is reality right here, covered up. And it's our job to open up all of our blindness and discover that isness right there, Vairocana Buddha. And so there was development in theistic thought over the centuries. There's development in Buddhist thought over the centuries. And it's fun to get into. It can get pretty heavy duty studying all this stuff, I want to tell you. For most people, they come here because they're having problems with a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a job, or they're having financial problems and they're just looking for help. What can you do to help save me? Well, it's not up for me to save you or for God to save you. It's up for you to save you. Only you can save yourself within the Buddhist concept of salvation. And but it takes work, and a lot of people don't want to invest the time into the work. You were here yesterday, the meditation class. You're the only one, and it's like, I give you credit, man. That's, it's like, damn, I'm the only one here. But you want it, so you got to work at it. So let's see that. Okay, that's it for today. Don't use that one.